Away we go. All right. Well, as part of our new addition to the Lydian podcast and things, we're introducing the Lydian Property Advisory, and we've got a special guest today. I want to welcome Bonnie McKenzie from Fivefold Property. Welcome, Bonnie. How you doing? All right?
I'm great. Thank you very much, Chris. Great to be here with you.
Excellent. And I think I'll just sort of share a little bit why we're trying to introduce Lydian Property Advisory and who our trusted partners are. So first and foremost, obviously, we've got the great brokers who do a lot of work with clients, and property is integral to what we do. Without property, we don't have debt. And like I said before, Bonnie, talking about lending all the time and interest rates gets pretty boring, right? So you are definitely sizzle today. And the second part of that is lots of our partners have great clients who aspirationally, they're investing in property too. It's a big pillar of their wealth creation strategy. And, you've got a really great story. So, I'd love to just share us a little bit about, yourself, your backstory, and obviously the new business Fivefold Property, and away we go.
Yeah. So I'm Bonnie. I founded Fivefold Property Partners last year, and we're a Sydney-based buyers agency anchored in the Sutherland Shire in New South Wales. And we predominantly buy owner-occupied properties for people in the Sutherland Shire, but also the Illawarra of New South Wales. But we also help our investor clients buy Australia-wide. So that's kind of a little bit about us. And a bit about me is I actually had 20 years in the corporate world before I jumped ship to become a buyer's agent. But I've got 20 years in personal property investment. I wanted to become the buyer's agent that I wish I'd had over my property buying career. I made every mistake, I think, and learned so much from it that I was just thinking, this should be more available. This should be more accessible to everybody. And so that's really why I wanted to get into it, to really kind of bring that expertise, guidance, and hand-holding to people who really need it, because it is a complex process, very stressful. It's a full-time job. So let me take a full-time job for you,
Definitely. I think it's interesting. Obviously you and I know each other a little bit more than just this video blog. And I really do love your lens on the data, your number cruncher, your backstory is managing big groups and things like that. And,
that's right.
Your passion is property, which is great, but also I like the fact it's numbers-based, statistics-based, as well as obviously trying to find that great place. And I know the service that you provide is extensive, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But you just mentioned before about it being complicated and you wish you'd had some help when you were starting out buying property. It's just got a whole lot more complicated, hey? So what was your take on the budget last week? How are you feeling, and what conversations you've had with your clients in the week?
Everyone's panicking. There's a lot of people, very, very in a flap about the budget. This is a tax, they're trying to solve a lot of our supply issues and affordability issues, with taxes and tax change and reform. Our approach at Fivefold is really about, let's keep calm. Okay, this is property. This is an essential need, and Australia is obsessed with property. Let's just take a minute, okay? There are some changes happening, absolutely. There is going to be a few people jumping ship. The thing is, history has told us that things like this happen, and the thing is that this is actually a time for opportunity for a lot of people to get in the market, to kind of really to jump in and invest and make hay while the sun shines in terms of affordability. But from the budget, look, I think that it's a lot of hype and a lot of panic, like I said.
I mean, look, firstly, the CGT issues are one big thing, and negative gearing has been a big part of our clients' journey. When they're buying the property, they want to understand that cash flow, and that negative gearing no longer being there for existing properties is a big thing. But I think interestingly, the big take for me is that the legislation is grandfathered. So if you've bought property, you've bought well in the last sort of 10 years, 5 years, whatever, there's very, very little changes for you. And keeping those properties for when you intend to either retire and use the rental income to live off, or alternatively, sell that asset and you still benefit from that CGT concession, I think is a good thing. The great thing for people like ourselves who are giving advice, Bonnie, I think is that people need advice right now. If you're going to buy a property today, and importantly, there is a big separation between that brand new property and existing property, and the benefits of both, and managing the cash flow of both. I think, deferring to someone like yourself, not only to find the property, but to understand that cash flow is really critical now. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And what conversations you've had this week? I mean, you said before, a few people are scared, nervous. What's been the sort of the next steps for those clients? Are they on hold, do you think, or will they ultimately still go through that purchase?
A lot of clients are asking about some of the other avenues, obviously around new builds and development investment, and also buying through SMSFs and lots of things. A lot of the brokers I'm talking to have had very similar conversations. So a lot of people trying to kind of look at all the other avenues. I have had a couple of clients who are kind of concerned around the marginal rate. So, but that's for the retirees and people, part-time workers and people who are in that lower income bracket. They're really feeling it. I mean, they're where they're going to be paying that higher marginal rate. That is a bit of a shame, I think. One of the not my favourite parts that's come out of the budget. I've also got people who were going to sell their investment properties, but are now going, oh no, I'm going to hang on to this one. I'm going to lock in those benefits because buying the next one is not going to have that, or it's only going to have 1 year worth of benefit. So there's a lot of people reacting in very different ways. But from a buyer's agency perspective, I think it's going to be, mine might be biased, but very important, particularly for people who really want to jump straight into, I'm going to invest in house and land, or I'm going to buy apartments and new builds, because that's where there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of places you can fall over in terms of quality, building, just buying a poor property for tax purposes is still buying a poor property and not buying the right one. So that's really, we need to be very careful about where you're buying, what you're buying, who you are collaborating with in terms of builders. Australia has a bit of a history of some not so great quality building, and this might unfortunately have similar repercussions, I think. So that's where you do really need data-driven. You need to know where to buy, what kind of asset, because if you're buying the wrong asset in the right area, but maybe the wrong asset or the wrong property type, those are all sorts of things, pitfalls that people can fall down. And begin buying for tax purposes only is not a great way to go. And there is so much opportunity still in the existing property market. So if you're established properties.
Well, I agree, and I think you touched on a couple of points there. That knee-jerk reaction to start thinking about buying property in Sutherland is super fun. I think, again, it's an advice-driven product, and I think having a property professional, a good mortgage broker who understands how to structure that debt, but then lastly, just making sure that you don't break your existing superannuation is vitally important. And the benefits that you get there. And then the second stage, buying something off plan and brand new, having a trusted builder, having an understanding about, how they make their money. And if a property person is actually selling you that property, understanding what income they derive from that property. Because, in the past, there's been some businesses which have really kind of lent into that market and made a lot of money to the negative impact of the asset they purchased, but the value of that asset as well has been a shame. But, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is I live in Randwick, east suburbs, and love the beach life. And every time I go down to Cronulla, I go, oh my God, I should be trying to buy a property down here. I know you're a specialist in the Sutherland Shire. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts around what's happening in that property market and some of the properties that are down there of interest right now.
Yeah, sure. So I am biased. I'm a long-term resident in the Sutherland Shire, called God's Country by the locals. So the Sutherland Shire, I'm a bit biased. I'm a long-term resident here, and it's God's country to the locals. You've got people who live here, they stay here. You've got a 12 plus year hold minimum for most homeowners here. And so you've got beaches, you've got national parks, you've got great amenities, you've got a council heavily investing in infrastructure and amenities. You've also got now obviously this the LMR, so you're seeing huge growth. We've got 10 of the LMR areas so we've got 10 of the LMRs in our Sutherland Shire.
Yeah, so just explain to me what the LMR is again, sorry?
Yeah, so LMR it's a housing policy. It started over 12 months ago. It's low to mid-rise. So it's low to mid-rise housing. Right. So, and that's within 400 metres of a station or town centre, where the density rules have been changed. They've been the government has made significant changes to what you can and can't build in those areas. Okay. So that is having significant impact in a lot of the streetscape in the Sutherland Shire. And you've got a lot of developers but also so you've got developers making those changes in terms of the density around those core areas, commercial areas.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's interesting because if we've got people if there's benefits there of changes, but also potentially if it's allowing more density high density properties in the area, it's going to change sort of maybe that asset that you purchase there as well. So having that understanding is pretty important. You gave me some stats earlier, and I'll just sort of quickly share them. So Sydney is an average increase in prices, I think, for the last 12 months has been like 4.2%. I think that's one of the stats you gave me.
Yes, that's right.
You're proud to shout out the Sutherland Shire stats. What are they?
Yeah, 7.8% in the same window. So while Sydney is seeing some softening, and you do see that in the Shire here, though, it is still very much an active market here in the Shire. You're seeing less people at home opens, the same as you are in Sydney, but those people are serious. They're there to buy, and the good quality stock is going. And about 20% of that stock is going off market, which is even more important way to have a buyer's agent to get access, because you're not seeing the full market picture if you're not only looking on the internet and looking on domainandrealestate.com.
Yeah, that's a big positive, isn't it, for a buyer's agent? If you've got access to those pre-list properties, it saves a lot of headache in messing around. And the Shire area, for me, I love it because you've kind of got two river systems or estuary systems running through there. You've kind of got the port hacking. And when I was a young fellow watching Sylvania Waters, the TV show, we all wanted to live on the port hacking side. But then on the Cronulla side, I've often gone on that ferry through the what's the river system there? Is it the Georges River going the other?
Georges River, that's correct. Well done, Chris.
Yep,
yes,
sorry. And that little ferry that goes through the Georges River to Bundina as well is pretty beautiful. So you've got really fantastic waterways there. And then I suppose in the middle side of the system, you've got your more, I suppose, normal suburbs. What are those suburbs then?
Family kind of mid-tier. That family mid-tier is very prevalent in Sutherland Shire. You've kind of got your prestige, obviously towards the ocean. That's consistent with most kind of areas. And then you've got your mid-tier around that Caringbah kind of area, Woolooware, and then you've kind of got your family zone, which is around your Sutherland, Engadine, Loftus, that kind of areas. You've got your coastal. Obviously, the coastal is your higher end, and then you've got your more kind of national park, green, leafy end, which is that family and that lower, more affordable house stock, which is a lot of people who grew up in that prestige Cronulla. They all want to stay. Everyone stays in the Shire. They want to stay here. They their parents are here, their families are here. They want to raise their kids here. But from affordability perspective, they may have been in the 80s growing up in Cronulla, but they just priced out. It's a $3.2 million median price now. And so you've got then being pushed out into those kind of more affordable areas like that Engadine, which is around that $1.5 million median price. Still beautiful areas, large blocks, literally on the border of the national parks. Council, again, investment in parks and community and family amenities and offerings there. So there's a lot of investment happening, a lot of growth happening. And
it's still a commute to town if you need to, that's it, isn't it?
35 minutes to town hall, 20 minutes maximum to a beach, and national parks right on your doorstep. How could you not want to be here? Again,
very good.
Yes.
So tell us, I mean, look, in the stuff you shared before, we've got some of the places you would think to invest. So what would some of the the different price points and the investments that you look at in that area?
So as I mentioned before, Chris, we've got kind of your 40s. You got that kind of affordable tier. If you can call $1.5 million affordable, which is Sydney these days, but under that 1.5 mark, you're looking at your townhouses, you're looking at your units. And again, into those more kind of the green areas, which is the national park side as opposed to the coastal side. So you're looking anywhere between your 1.5s, 1.6s in those kind of early areas. And then you move into that mid-family kind of range, which is around that 1.67s right up to kind of the late millions, 1.9 millions. And then you've got your kind of the Caringbah, then you're going to Woolooware, Yowie, but all the bays. You've got Yowie Bay, Gymea Bay, who have that kind of premium, but it's very much a mixed wealth base in those areas. You have kind of people are on these, 4-tiered waterfront properties with a boat shed, mixed in with people who have your 3-bed, brick with a colour-bond fence. So they're all kind of meshed in together, which is great kind of diversity amongst the community. It's great as well. Then you move obviously towards the coast and you get your kind of much more elite area. You've got your Burraneer Bay and Cronulla, which is your beachfront properties. So there's some huge growth happening in those particular areas. Interestingly though, it's those more affordable areas that are seeing higher growth than coastal because again, that affordability drive going through to those areas. One of the things about the Sutherland Shire, which is very interesting, Chris, is that if you're talking lifestyle comparables, if you've got the lower North Shore and the northern beaches, who have very similar lifestyle and very similar amenities. So you're talking beaches, national parks, and reasonably good connections to the city and travel into the city, commuter time. You're actually looking at about a 33% discount in terms of costs for property in those areas. 33% difference. But you also got a higher projected growth in the Sutherland Shire than you do in those areas in the lower North Shore and the northern beaches. So you're looking at, I think it's 30% in the northern beaches and around the comparable areas up north, our northern friends. And then in the Sutherland Shire, though, you're looking at about 37%. And they've also had higher growth in the last few years as well. So you're really seeing some people from those particular areas and those northern beaches, lower North Shore, figuring out, going, hang on, what's happening down there? We can get we can get bigger house, we can get bigger land, great amenities, very much not compromising on lifestyle, but for, a fraction of the price.
A smaller price, yeah, okay. And look, are you okay with me sharing a couple of those properties you picked out for me before? Is that cool? So, for me, I'm always about a sticky beat, right? But what we were just sort of sharing previously is some amazing properties down in the Cronulla area. I'll just share my screen. I'm a novice at this. I'll go to the 17 Toowoomba Street, Cronulla. Do you want to walk us through this place?
Okay, so we had some significant... Okay, so you've got Toowoomba Street there. It's a fabulous property. I don't think I'd mind lounging by that pool there. But this one actually sold for a off-market for a record in the area of $22.5 million.
Oh my God, $22 million. So this one's in the Georges River, just overlooking the Georges. I recognise that waterway there for sure.
No, this is the 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐵 Bay. So this is one of the waterways. So this is the Port Hacking on Toowoomba Street. Yeah. So you've got the Calcutta marble kitchens, the smart home, all the mod cons. And that was a negotiated. It was only on market for 7 days.
Okay, well, that's incredible.
Absolutely.
That is beautiful. Anyway, for anyone who's got the money I'd love to do the loan on that one anyway. And then, two beautiful apartments overlooking the water. We've got the 11, the Esplanade, Cronulla, yeah?
Yes, the Esplanade, Cronulla. So we had 2 apartment buildings on the Esplanade sold within, I think it was a week of each other. We had the Esplanade, so 22 million for one, and you had 20 million for the other. So you're looking at, 53 million. So yes, Chris, we had one of those went for $22 million and the other for $53 million within 1 week of each other.
And that was 2 apartments there, is it?
Sorry?
Is this one 2 apartments, is it?
2 apartment buildings. So that's 2 apartment buildings that are on the Esplanade. So you're talking oceanfront property, that premium area in Cronulla. And also price driver of those particularly was, again, they are in that LMR zone. So that low to mid-rise policy is definitely at play there. And those were buyers, we believe, again, it's very cloak and dagger, but those were out of area buyers around from that, and we believe from those northern beaches, lower North Shore areas.
Cool. Yeah, beautiful. 2 beautiful properties. Pretty prestigious, right? I wish we all had the money to invest in them, but look, no doubt about it, some people do. And look, Ed, you really got to know your stuff if you're buying a property down there. So, well, just tell us a little bit about your process, Bonnie, and how what your service proposition is at Fivefold Property. Yeah. Sure,
absolutely. So we have very much client-centric focus. So particularly for an investment owner, we completely work backwards from the goals. What's your holds, period? You're looking for long-term growth, you're looking for cash flow, all those usual things. But then we also make sure that we are very much looking at what the cash flow is. We make sure that people are very comfortable in that cash flow that they're going to have for every particular property, because we do want to focus on that hold. How long can you hold the property? And going into a period of potential, economic downturn or some volatility, uncertainty, we want to make sure that our clients are really comfortable in that that affordability, that they can weather those ups and downs and hold that property for the period of time that they actually want to hold them. So we do a lot of work up front in making sure that we're really comfortable with what we're buying, where we're buying it, and what those goals are. So we really make sure that we're going to meet those goals for the clients. And we don't, I know some buyers agencies go, well, we are buying in Southeast Queensland right now. We're buying in Logan right now. We're buying in Bundaberg at the moment. We're very much absolutely not that approach. It is, again, completely centered on the client, what their goals are. And also I have very much data driven. I'm a bit of a data nerd. So very, very data driven, but then also about what's on the ground, what's the intel, what are we not hearing, and what's the scuttlebutt around the area. Very, very rigorous due diligence process. I can't sleep at night if I don't know. I don't think that I've looked at every rock and everything. And I would never recommend a client a property that I wouldn't buy myself. So that's very much.
And you do the end to end, isn't it? Right. So you'll help and do the research. You'll do the brief, and then trying to find that property is obviously off plan, but also looking at what's on the market right now. And then do you do the negotiation and the auction as well? Is that something you'll help with?
Yes, absolutely. So as you said, Chris, we go right through from very first contact, building that brief. We spend a lot of time on the brief, understanding ins and outs, because it saves a lot of time in the future, and making sure we don't waste any time for our clients in showing them properties that aren't worth their time. So we spend a lot of time there. We go through that, like you said, the search process. So while you're at your desk or watching your kid play soccer, I'm at the open for inspections or arranging to them to make sure, again, the stuff you see is only the ones that are worth your time. So then we go right through to, yes, the due diligence process, very thorough process, making sure we've got the best practice methodology in terms of that. And then, yes, negotiation, auction, going to the table, knowing your worth. That's really the key, is that we do very extensive comparable market analysis to make sure we know what that property is worth, what the market is willing to pay for it, and our clients we recommend they don't go over those particular ceilings that we find there. And the negotiation, going to the negotiation, knowing our value is a really, really strong component of how we deal with the selling agents as well and secure the property for our clients.
And then, settlement. I mean, obviously you want to maintain that relationship with the client. So I think that's very important. And I suppose lastly, I think, the great thing about you, Bonnie, is that, you've worked with professionals before. You've worked with mortgage brokers, good solicitors, financial planners as well. So, having that property chair in our advice team is very, very important to us. So, I mean, firstly, it's been great researching a little bit about Cronulla because I love it. I can't afford the $22 million house as yet, but I'm working on it. But I think what we'll do post this is we'll share the video through to our brokers and socialise a bit more about the Sutherland Shire. But secondly, more importantly, if any of our partners are interested or have clients in the Sutherland Shire looking for property or looking to move down that way, we'll certainly connect them with you and your business as well.
Please do.
But thanks very much for sharing about the Sutherland Shire today. It's been cool.
One thing I'll get before we go, Chris, though, is your partners might want to know there's actually a new beachfront suburb being built 6 kilometres from Cronulla.
Forgot about that.
So in the Cornell development and rezoning, you've got in the next 20-year projection a new Bingina beach, which is being built, and it is the first beachfront suburb to be built in Metro Sydney in a generation. And that's so very exclusive to the Sutherland Shire, and some significant growth and investment happening in that area. I think it's 4,300 new dwellings, green spaces, beachfront property. So you've got, again, that coupled with very, very low vacancy in the Sutherland Shire of 1%, built with more than double the growth of Sydney happening at the moment. And the demand is just is huge, and you've got that lifestyle comparability with the partners the northern friends in the lower North Shore and in the northern beaches, but yet at that kind of 33% discount rate. So it's a lot of combining features, which is selling it to the rest of New South Wales.
Well, what I'd love to do is get the link for the details of that, so then people can do their own research. But I think I've never heard of a beach suburb opening up, so I'll be interested to have a look at it too. But again, thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me.
See you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.